Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. You're listening to Colney Talk Podcast, a bite-size show. I'm your host, Alex. First-time guest, thank you for joining and welcome. And to my returning listeners, always glad to have you back. On this bite-size show, I talk a little bit about the Arsenal game and pick out my top 3 Arsenal players who I think were great in the game, and one player I consider the other guy who just had a horrible game or just not good enough. One of the ultimate games of Arsenal's this season, not in any fashion did this team resemble itself all season in this game. We have been thumped by this team so many times, and we really hope to have given them a tough game. Not today. 2 minutes in, I held my breath hoping against a penalty. Thankfully, that passed. We got sliced open so easily on the first goal. There is no hiding on that. This wasn't a dispossession. How can you tell me Holden and Partey couldn't at least tackle or stop that from happening? They looked inferior, badly, on a high press and defending. Okay, 1-0 down. Then what? Arsenal were not yet in the game tactically. City were in a very heavy press formation. We just needed a good dribbling defender. We missed that. And to escape their press, it was just something that we couldn't solve. Our usual passes were not working. There was even numbers between teams when it came to how they pressed us. City cut off our passing lanes for our defenders to move the ball. In that moment, we'll lose possession and we see ourselves like struggling and reacting to trying to contain dangerous situations. We lost possessions and we looked scared. Xhaka did the smart thing when he had lost the ball at one point to draw a foul. A couple of times Arsenal players were not in position to receive the ball. This is just an example of how they will look so scared. We have conceded goals in this situation a lot of times, and I know that more times than not, we respond very well. Oftentimes, we see that as a bad situation, and then we kind of, respond in a good way and score and win. I'm sure the coaches were aware, but I don't know how much they had given the players information on what to do. Arsenal playing against City, this was a different situation, and you would think that the team was really well equipped. Seeing how much we have prepared for City, understanding how they press, you would think that the Arsenal players will be most likely comfortable in handling the situation, but it just did not look anywhere like they had dealt with this before. It was a very, very difficult situation. Our passing rhythm were in patches. We didn't have any chance at all. Odegaard didn't have a good link up in the middle to grow our passing formation. We could not get out of our own half. Talk about wide pitch climb down pressing from City. It was impressive yet scary for Arsenal. I mean, just like any other situation where you're trying to fight back into the game. 20 minutes in the first half, we hadn't established our composure, nor did we even have a chance to work with the ball. Off the ball, our pressing wasn't even effective. The team had to stay compact to avoid being cut open, which we already were, but we didn't look calm. We didn't look like we had that confidence. Even when we tried to regain possession, it just didn't last, more than a few minutes or so, and things just got back to the same oppressive situation that City had put us in. It was really sad to see how vulnerable we were in defense, even just off of one missed pass. I mean, there have been games where the Arsenal team covered each other when retreating against a fast break or poorly timed clearance. Then again, it was a different situation. I wish Partey picked up another gear, staying more defensive than usual. It could have been the instruction he was given. There were so many questions. I mean, if he stayed on De Bruyne for most part, it wouldn't have been this. It could have been a little bit different. We dealt with so much of these reactive situations. Excellent block by Ben White on what could have been the second goal easily by City. Arsenal were yet again trying to gain some control, even when City lost possession, but it just didn't go far. We were not at their level up until this point. I mean, so many of the players were so slow. When Haaland was on the ball, there was no urgency. I mean, wow. It felt like we were already expecting second goal when he had the ball, and we had just that less of an urgency when we're already 1-0 down. Party was so high up. I mean, I know it wasn't just me seeing this, but I just didn't see any effect that he had staying up there. I mean, I know he's very good with intercepting and trying to keep us in a good formation to attack and score. But against City, I don't think that worked. Yes, it was a quarter into the first half, but I just felt like we had to retreat defensively to get ourselves into the game. The fact that we didn't even have possessions at all the way up to 25, 24 minutes in the first half, that was what I would have imagined us doing. Our defensive vulnerability was really exploited by City. Arsenal, we just got manipulated to just being very passive in the game. I understand we had to accept being comfortable without the ball, but we didn't even try to make it hard for City in this process. I wanted to see confidence in these players. I wanted to see them at least show their fights, communicating, barking out orders, pointing things out, showing that they were ready for this fight. Score be damned. This is just what we wanted to see these players do. Body language was way below average for me, as if they were just in damage control. I mean, and this is just the first half we're talking about. 34 minutes to just have one meaningful shot attempt by Partey, that's fine. If it's a tactical compromise, I'm okay with that. We had to just show more from the players. We had to show something, and I couldn't really. I was looking for it. We normally don't do that, looking for a sign. Instead, we had big gaps in the back. Man City fast break, it tore us up. Just a lot to handle for these Arsenal defenders. I felt bad for them, and we were peppered with shots. Ramsdale earned his shirt today, for sure. 3 direct shots that would have been a goal. So far, Arsenal were 1-0 down. It was clear that our defending was not really present to just regain the ball. It was a joke. When we regained the ball, it wouldn't even just seem like we were holding it long enough, especially in our own half. It was so weak. It was embarrassing. I believe some of the players had a lot of fear, and it transmitted how they played or how people were seeing, how they were seeing each other handle situations. The team managed to handle, the pressure, but then the second goal from a set piece just hit us really hard. I still thought that, it wasn't all written as far as the game just yet. Never mind how the first half just went completely in City's favor, but I knew there was so much more that we had to do. Start of the second half, we managed a few passes to get a shot. Then we managed to get a few passes to get a shot. Then City really figured out a choke point against Arsenal's passes, and it looked like the same old situation of us being reactionary in defending like we were in the first half. City got out of our press so easily. They had the midfield players dribble out of our formation the way we tried to clamp them down. City took us to school today, folks. We just had to accept that. Even when they had an error in passing, our players were not even close enough to hold up the ball. We continued to take a ridiculous risk in ball clearance. Rob Holding missed a couple of it in the first half. Big Gabby missed it, leaving Haaland to run one-on-one against Ramsdale, and yet again, he was there to save us. And to think we had no protection in front of the defenders tactically said a lot. The way we played comes with risk. But at least there's nothing wrong with retreating defensively to regain our possessions and get ourselves back into the game. We hadn't done that all game. And just like that, we conceded our third goal. And what is so astonishing is that this was 2v3 Arsenal defenders. It was De Bruyne and Haaland versus our 3 defenders. And it felt like we were just 1v3. I don't know, it was poor. One poor pass from Odegaard. No good close down to redirect or just clamp it down like they were doing us when we had the ball. It was unbelievable. We made changes, and there was nothing to show how we would even build up some challenge. No passes with belief from the players, or attempt to somehow respond. Again, this is just showing the evidence of how we were today in this game. Again, the body language showed you all you needed to know. Any attacking chance we had was quickly nullified. When Saka had the ball and the way they just positioned, he knew that he had to just redirect everything. And I wonder why we couldn't do the same thing. And just in some ways, even if we didn't really have our mustering spirit to attack, at least we can just spend our time defending. Not for the most part of the game, but at least a way to figure things out and get back into it. Again, as I said, regardless of the score. And then we just started to grow our mileage on the ball in the second half. And it could have been that City took their foot off the gas after they scored that third goal. But when our passes went up into City's third, the defense just closed down to cause us to a redirect. Arsenal could, like I said, we could have done the same thing, at least in some ways. Maybe we did, but it didn't look like that. Because you would see the players defending with confidence, knowing what they had to do, being alert. You're not looking at mistakes. You're looking at how these players are really communicating and working with each other. We were levels below City today. Like, there is nothing else to say about it. Another problem was that our passes were really slow, and that didn't help our situation. I like how Jorginho, when he came on the field, his authority in directing and commanding the players, giving them some, at least a little bit of chance to fight back or do something, but again, that didn't look up in so many ways until way late in the game. The players, they tried their best, but it all happened in the closing minute where we got a chance to pull one back and then concede on the other side. We were taught a huge lesson today. Complete destruction by Manchester City. On to my special mention of players today. Ramsdale, he takes the top nod for doing all he could to keep us in the game. Our defending left him exposed so much that we just couldn't handle the way they had really just pressed us down. We could have been way more embarrassed with the scoreline than we actually saw. Ramsdale did a lot, between the posts, and really trying to keep us in the game. My other player, Saka, in several occasions, he tried to do something. There was no spark as much for him to connect with Jesus and Odegaard. They dismantled our game plan so easily. He tried to do something, but there wasn't enough. As much as he was able to get close into the box, there wasn't anyone there to really get things going, even when he had some crosses. Saka was the other player. I saw him doing something, and that's what you can at least, applaud him for. My final player, Ben White, the most reactive and instinctive defender in this game. He showed up today. I applaud the way his work rate and his game defending really was in effect. Like, not just his block shots, but just things that he had to do. I mean, these players, if you passed a little bit of Ben White's spirit across, it would have been completely different. Even if we lost the game, it would have felt different, but we didn't get that. So it's just unfortunate, but at least I, applaud Ben White for the way he played. My other guy today, I'm giving it to Mikel Arteta. He had a very horrible game plan. In this game, he would have reacted and responded, done something, not just reactively. He saw how things were. To have our defenders so exposed and not reacting after 1-0 down, most of the players were not on it. And if that was due to the formation and the way the players were in some ways not affecting how Man City manhandled us, I put it on the manager leaving things as they were. Just a sad and humbling loss. There are situations, like I said, if it was just good old traditional Mark De Bruyne and Haaland and let the others do the damage, that's fine. That's fair. It's something, just change it somehow. That's what I would have expected, because you don't know how maybe that could have turned things around and then would have gained some foot into the game and then continue with the way we had planned things out. Maybe Arteta changed that, but it didn't have any effect. It just felt like it was the same old things. Just as I said, a humbling loss. I'm only looking at this game. There's nothing I want to extend into how it's been and every other thing else as a situation for the season. No, this was just the one game, and I know it mattered a lot. There is so much that we will take after the fact, but there is more to understand that we can look beyond this now and focus on the other ones that we can at least do something better from. Folks, stay positive. Support the team as you always have. There is only one way up, and that's doing it all together. Special mentions today, Ramsdale, Saka, and Ben White. Arteta, the other guy today. And with that, folks, I'll leave it here. Talk to you all soon. Take care.